So I know new faces are here. I would like to welcome them for the ones who couldn't be able to join us in the morning. Now we are going to have the second session with the moderator, Professor Kitchen, and Professor Zafer Erdoğan with his colleague Tolga Torun will present a paper, and then Assistant Professor Guda van Noort will have another paper, and my colleague Sema Misci and I will also present the third paper. Now I would like to invite Professor Kitchen for his moderation.
I'm looking forward to these three papers. They're all very interesting. I've asked the speakers to speak for about 18 minutes and to leave spaces at the end for questions. And I'm not going to read out the titles of the papers, but they're all extremely relevant to the theme of this conference. So first of all, we're going to hear from Professor B. Zafer Erdoğan, and with regard to marketing communications and social interactions. Over to you.
Yep, that works. Good afternoon, and I'm sure you all had your blood sugars up. A lot of questions for me, yes, after this morning's session. This is the paper that was my co-author's PhD thesis. So we are recycling the papers. Yeah? And Tolga has asked me to present because I made him work harder. Now he's making me work. And Professor Kitchen has some dealings in that also too when the PhD thesis was getting prepared. Tolga went to Canada for a year to work with him. The title actually reflects everything. It is what we're looking at is we're looking at marketing communications and social interactions through virtual communities, and we want to see whether it has an effect, positive effect, on customer-based or consumer-based brand equity. Yeah? This was also talked in the morning about equity is everything, everything is equity. Who's that 1 million guy who wants to be a millionaire? No, he's not over here? All right. So I'm not going to get into the details of the background, but it is self-explanatory. We know IMC can underpin components of CBBE, which is the components are brand loyalty, associations, awareness, and perceived quality. And we all know what virtual communities are because most of us, most probably at least one of those virtual communities, we are members. Anyone that is not a member of a virtual community over here? Facebook accounts, Twitter accounts, you have those, yes? Or not? You do not have any Facebook, Twitter? You have those, yes. So we wanted to see these social interactions within those virtual communities and marketing communication activities. Do they affect the CBBE? This is the newest formula for theory of relativity. I'm not saying that, but a lot of resemblance. You know, E equals MC squared. But IMC, basically what we are trying to do is IMC and social interactions, E equals MC squared. Yeah? And what we're trying to do is IMC plus social interactions through the virtual communities. Do they affect the CBE? That's what we wanted to look. And the methodology that we are going to, we had was a triangulations. We had an extensive literature review on, and after that literature review, we had done qualitative research because I am a believer of qualitative research. Why? Because most of the scales developed in Northern America are not suitable in our cultures, our context. And now he's looking at his watch. Can I stop him now? And after that qualitative work, we have modified some of the scales. And after that, we had a mail survey, web-based survey, in order to quantify and generalize the results. We had used these scales, brand loyalty scales, brand awareness, brand associations, and perceived quality. Those are usual scales developed by our scholars. Aker and Keller is there. And we have used social interactions developed for VC, virtual communities, and marketing communications. I is there because we believe marketing communication activities within virtual communities are all integrated part of our marketing communications, and that's developed for virtual communities also too. Of course, we have the brand equity as the dependent variable. We had done, as I said, qualitative interviews, semi-structured interviews. We have gone through our scales, and we have done, we have changed our survey extensively, and we have done a pre-test of 30 people through the web. And after the initial emailings, because we didn't do email surveys, we have emailed the web address in order for them to get in and fill the questionnaire. And we have done 3 reminders in 2 weeks apart. We have followed all the rules of doing research and stopped when we had 500 usable questionnaires, because we got 700 plus, but some of them were not filled, so there were item non-response, questionnaire non-response, all those problems. And we have used structural equation modeling to test our hypotheses and our model. Basically, our model is, what we are saying is, this is the red, we looked for the interaction. We think from the theory and literature there is an effect of marketing communication and social interactions. And all those hypotheses are positive effect hypotheses. So let's take it. IMC activities have 86. Hypothesis 6 indicates that IMC activities have a positive effect on brand awareness. Those are all positive associations. We have the sample we have chosen is the GSM operators' Facebook accounts, corporate Facebook accounts, and at the time of the research we have done was 3,600,000 registered Facebook account users there were. And all those calculations, we had to get 384 responses, but we went through, and in order to make sure we stopped when we had 500 responses. And when it comes to respondents, they are female, interesting. 2/3 are females, 80% are 18 to 25, and majority are in university or just graduated, and as they are young and at the earlier stages of their careers, or they are at the university, that's their monthly income. We have gone through all those scales, the factor analysis, confirmatory analysis, the reliability scores are there. They are all alpha scores. Every one of them are above 85. And we have done, in order to test the model, we have done, and you can see the hypotheses are accepted, but I'm going back to the model. That will be a lot easier because there are very interesting results. Solve and talk about those. First of all, yes, our theoretical background indicating that IMC and social interaction has interaction. Therefore, with our model, we have tested the hypothesis. The blue ones, there are no significant effect. red ones are there are negative effect, and the black ones are positive effect. That means we have accepted the black hypothesis, hypothesis in black, those are accepted. Hypotheses in blue and red are rejected. The very interesting results are IMC activities through the VC, virtual communication, virtual communities only has an effect on brand awareness, not on brand loyalty, not on brand association or perceived quality. But on the other hand, social interactions have positive effect on all those factors, the endogenous factors and the exos. Yeah? We have been thinking about it, and before the Viva also we thought about it. And when you look at the beta factors on the social interaction and Markov's, of course we didn't test in terms of a hypothesis, but there's a strong relationship and interaction. Most probably IMC activities affect all those factors through the social interaction, which I will come to that. Where are you going? Come on. So, conclusion. Yes, IMC and social interaction through VC can provide strategic advantage for brands. How? We know from the morning's presentation, I didn't go into it, a lot of obstacles are there. The fragmented media and people are more technology savvy and so on and so forth. So it is a way to overcome the obstacles, enhance the others, IMC and the other activities. So what should the practitioners do? I like to have an implication. You know, a lot of people this morning, Philip Kitchen was talking about, you know, we seem to be more scientific when we have numbers. But let's face it, we are a social scientist. We are social scientists. And in marketing and communication, we are in applied social sciences. So everything that we do reflects on, should reflect at least, on the implications or the practitioners. So what do we say to practitioners? What we are saying is, practitioners, you need to emphasize on increase your IMC activities to create social interaction. That social interaction in turn increases the activities of effects of marketing communications, which would lead to a greater CBBE. So there is a symbiotic relationship between these, in a way. You see, Marcome's increases the effects of social interactions affects and increases the effects of IMC, therefore it will lead to greater CBBE. So do we have a limitation? Of course, every study has a limitation. You know, I'm not saying what I'm saying is the truth and the only truth only. We have generalization issue, of course, the main limitation. We have used the convenience sample, and the results are only valid for the sample that we have used, and there is more research is needed. So the questions that we should ask, or we've been asking, we have some answers, but if we have time, maybe we can touch on those too. So why do marketing communication activities that we know has an effect on brand loyalty, brand associations, and perceived quality does not have a direct, significant effect through the virtual communities? That is a good question to ask. And the second one is, why does perceived quality doesn't have an effect, significant effect? There are effects, but they are not significant. Brand equity and lust, this is very interesting also too. The brand associations has a negative effect on brand equity. We have answers to these, of course. We had gone through the Viva. But do I have time, Prof? Do I have time?
Yeah, 2 more minutes.
All right, 2 more minutes. So the last, I'll start from the last question. There's a lot of negative word of mouth on those social websites and the Facebook. A lot of, everyone is talking, you know. We've been talking about in the morning that, you know, no one is controlling the messages. Everyone is in control. We are, in a way, in an area or stage that, you know, everyone is in control, but no one is controlling. Therefore, all those brand associations can create negative effects on brand equity. All those rumors, PR people will know far better than we do. All those negative messages through these virtual communities may be creating these negative significant effects. But when we go back to perceived quality, we are still not Y or X or Z generation at least. Actually, they are Y generation. But we seem to, the perceived quality is something that we touch, something that we use. So we have an answer to that. But all those answers needs to be researched further. That's why we said further research happens. So notes for that researchers. Thanks so much. But anything that you need to, please do comment and do ask questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for great research and presentation. Before showing this future research avenues, I just thought some questions. And now I'm just thinking about how can we answer these questions. Maybe we can look at the moderation effect. So maybe we can in this area maybe there's no effect in the blue, right?
Yes, no significant.
No significant effect. Maybe there is a moderation effect through some other factors. Maybe we can find out.
That's what I was trying to say. When we go back to last slide, there is more research needed.
Yes.
In order to see, because brand loyalty becomes a dependent variable. When we go back, IMC3 social interactions. Social interactions have a positive effect and significant.
Yes.
Therefore, social interactions may be the moderator
yes.
of brand loyalty. That's
Yes.
what I was trying to say. Maybe I missed it because 18 minutes, why not 20? You're right. We have to look at it.
Yes.
You're right.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
When you're going to take the research now, you've got this work done with a convenience sample. Are you going to try and replicate it with a more structured sample, or are you going to take it into another country or into another virtual network or community? Where do you go with it? Because I think these findings that you've come up with are significant and important, but you need more research to supplement what's been done already. No?
Prof, let me be honest.
I'm talking to Tolga as well.
For Tolga, the question is for you.
Yeah.
He
does.
Should we do it? I think we should do it, but we should publish this and get some feedback first. Let's see what happens, because we all know the publication process, the review process teaches us a lot, and the more you submit, the more rejection you get, the better you are. That's what you taught me, didn't you? So we need to submit this to somewhere.
It just supports to some degree the work that's being done by big research, that communication that's being channeled through some type of online network does not actually contribute significantly to brand equity.
As Bilge was saying, what we need to do, maybe just analyze the same data and look for the IMC as exogenous and social interaction and brand loyalty, and the other ones individually. Therefore, we can tell that there is a mediation effect. But from here, we can't. Yep. About when you do that, you know, they call it slicing in Turkey. That's an interesting thing. Slicing, everyone knows what slicing is, yes. Slicing is considered unethical in research terms. So you have a data, and this is the data that you have collected for this. And the result is telling something that you know, theoretically is not right. And you go back and you're saying that I know for sure, as Lydia was indicating, I'm sure IMC affects brand loyalty significantly through the social interaction. If I do that, they'll say, you know, you can have what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 papers instead of having one. And this is considered unethical in Turkish terms, and I know it's interesting.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Okay, we're now going to hear from Professor Guda van Noort, University of Amsterdam, with regard to online damage control.
Good afternoon. I hope you all enjoyed a wonderful lunch just as I did.
We didn't have pictures, come on.
Pictures?
We didn't have pictures.
We didn't have pictures, no. So first of all, thank you for the invitation. So far it was really already well organized, and I think the students can be really happy that they work at this, are studying at this department. I think if everything is as organized as well as this conference, students are really happy. So the title of the presentation is Online Damage Control with Webcam Interventions, and what the title means you will learn in a minute. I think it's addressed multiple times today that because of new media, it's more complex for companies to manage customer relationships, because one of the phenomena of new media is that consumers use new media to express also their negative word of mouth. That's also addressed in the previous presentation. And because they do so, and they express their negative experience with brands and products and services, and they express these in new media. And they can do that, for instance, via Twitter. Let me see. This is somebody who's expressing her negative experience with the Hilton Hotel. I'm standing in a line with 20 other people, and there's only one desk agent. Thanks, Hilton. But by doing so, of course, this negative experience is shared instantly with many other people, and all these other people can also learn from this comment and maybe get negative brand evaluations considering the Hilton. So we now share in new media these negative comments with a multitude of others, and we do so with in different platforms. We do not only do that with Twitter, but also with Facebook and other new media platforms. And of course, this can damage the reputation and brand evaluation of the brand, and therefore it's a challenge for companies how to respond to such negative word of mouth in social media. So they do so in different ways. This is one answer to this negative comment. Hi Cheryl, we are very sorry to hear of your checkout experience. Please follow a DM, direct mail. We are here to help and resolve any concern. So and many brands are really active in social media to respond to such negative experiences. And these responses is what we call web care. So that's, I think the word comes from the Netherlands, and maybe other people call it customer care, or I don't know how many terms there are, but we call it web care. And so this is a more precise definition of web care. The act of engaging in online interactions with complaining consumers by actively searching the web to address consumer feedback, and that can be questions, concerns, and complaints. And central to web care efforts is the aim to restore or improve the brand evaluation of the complaining consumer, but also of the ones who have been exposed to the complaint, because many people can see this complaint. Okay, so companies can do that in many different ways, and one differentiation is that they can do it proactively and reactively. And proactively means that they do so without the consumer asking for it, and reactively means that they're only responding in when the consumer explicitly asked the brand to do so. So here is an example of proactive web care. Here there is a comment to the Hilton. She mentions the Hilton, but she's not really asking for a response or solving the problem, but the Hilton is responding to it. And this is an example of reactive web care if KPN, Dutch telecom company, is responding, because this client is explicitly asking the KPN web care team to help him with a problem with the internet. So if then KPN answers to this online complaint, then it would be reactive type of web care strategy. So I will present two studies today, the findings of two studies, to assess how and under what conditions web care, proactive and reactive web care, is likely to engender positive brand evaluations with the ones who are exposed to the negative word of mouth. And we study two conditions, and first is the platform, whether it helps, whether it's in a consumer or a brand-generated platform. And the other condition is communication style, whether it matters whether a corporate or a conversational tone of voice is used in the web care intervention. So first study one, how and under what conditions. First the how. Well, we think that that's our general thought, that companies of web care can only be effective if companies engage in a natural style. So I think Philip Kitchen also addressed it this morning. If people have the feeling that they are persuaded and that you're not really there to help them and it's not genuine, then it's most likely that it will not have an effect. Yeah. So that's and we think that reactive web care communicates a more conversational or human voice than proactive web care, because proactive web care, that's not what the consumer asked for. Okay, so when it humanizes the corporate voice that is normally perceived as profit-driven and persuasive, then it should be effective. Now, under what conditions? And that's also addressed this morning. It's all about context. So what we think in a context that is made by consumers for consumers, which is the case in consumer-generated platforms, most brands seem inauthentic and their presence is intrusive and out of place, which is stated earlier. So and we think that it might interact with reactive and proactive web care styles, that especially in consumer-generated platforms, it should be the case that brands are only present and only responding to negative word of mouth when it's explicitly asked for. Otherwise, it seems to be too much intrusive, probably. So this is then the research model. Maybe it seems a bit complicated, but it's not at all. The first hypothesis, we thought that responding in general to negative word of mouth is always better than not responding at all for the ones who is exposed to the negative word of mouth, because that means that the company is caring, right? So that's the first hypothesis. And then for the second and the third hypothesis, that's the same interaction effect. We think that reactive web care is effective irrespective of the platform type, but proactive web care is only sort of allowed or appropriate in brand-generated platforms. So the platform of the brand its own, because their consumers might expect a proactive attitude of the brand to respond to negative word of mouth. And because a human voice is predicting brand evaluation, we thought the interaction might be mediated by the perceived human voice. So what we did, we created two different types of platforms. One was the Toyota block of the Toyota car brand, and the other block, maybe that's the previous one, oh no, is auto block, car block. So that's an independent consumer-generated block site, and this is the Toyota brand-generated platform. And then there was something wrong with Toyota cars, and somebody expressing his complaint about the car and many more things. And then Toyota is responding either in response because the consumer asked for a response, or it did not ask for a response, and Toyota was still responding. So that was the proactive and reactive manipulation. Well, in general, we found full support for the whole model. So I dropped out the statistics for this presentation. So that means that web care, responding in general, can protect or improve brand evaluations after people are exposed to negative word of mouth. And the success of it is based on both based on the strategy and in what context it is placed. So reactive web care is effective irrespective of the platform, and proactive web care is only effective in the brand-generated platform, the platform of the brand own. Yeah? And because human voice explained it all, the perceived human voice of the web care post, that means that human voice probably should get focal attention in developing web care strategies. And there are several indicators of human voice, and that, for instance, means that the company expresses that it's open to a dialogue, so it actually invites consumers to respond. And it provides prompt feedback, and it also mimics more person-to-person conversations. So, hey, hello, and how are you? Instead of more formal conversational styles. So there's many indicators of human voice, and we thought, of course, you can also adopt these indicators in your web care strategy. So in a second study, we tried to examine the interaction between proactive and reactive web care strategy in combination with using either a more conversational tone of voice or a more corporate tone of voice. So this is the research aim. So the model is more or less the same, and this time we have a different moderator. We examine trust as well, and also brand evaluations. Again, we thought that no web care is always worse than responding, either in a reactive or a proactive way. And a proactive web care might seem intrusive, therefore leads to lower levels of trust and leading to lower levels of brand evaluations. But maybe with a conversational tone of voice, so with a more human tone of voice, this tone of voice can compensate for the proactive web care style. This time we examined it not for cars, but for a fashion brand, H&M, Hennes and Mauritz. Probably you have this in Turkey as well, right? H&M, yeah. It's all over the world, except for Australia. You do not have it in Australia. So for different type of brand and different type of platform, because now it was not a blog site, but a social networking site, Facebook, and to manipulate proactive and reactive web care styles, the negative word of mouth was either placed in the profile page of Jenny Lee herself, mentioning H&M, which means that H&M can still see what she's posting, or it was posted on the H&M profile site, which means that, of course, the Jenny Lee is asking for a response. And tone of voice, you cannot really see it here, but conversational tone of voice is more like, hi Jenny, we are so sorry, we like person-to-person interaction with emotions in it and a question mark. And the corporate tone of voice was more formal, sorry for the inconvenience, not like, I hope you're okay, but sorry for any inconvenience. So more formal language use. And please contact our customer service department, which is also really formal, right? That's a department, it's not contact me, but the department. So again, we found support for the model. So there were again interactions with web care strategy and the tone of voice, such that responding reactively helps. It's always better than proactively, but only when a human voice was adopted. So with a corporate tone of voice, there was no difference between the proactive and the reactive web care style. So what can we learn from this? Well, Fournier already stated that today marketing is less a matter of domination and less control, what we also state over and over today, and more a matter of fitting in. Well, then how to fit in. And that's, for instance, by providing a brand-generated platform, because if you allow people to complain there and attract people to complain there, you can always respond. Okay? That's what we learned from these findings. And monitoring consumer feedback helps. Also on consumer-generated platforms, then you only have to think about what way to respond and is it always appropriate to respond. And addressing consumer feedback posted on brand-generated platforms, so your own platform, and on consumer-generated platforms is successful, but preferably when asked to do so, so only in a reactive style. And address consumer feedback with a conversational tone of voice, that's another implication. Well, we think this is only the starting point of webcare research. We only studied reactive and proactive styles and conversational tone of voice and corporate tone of voice. But of course, when I think you can interact with consumers with a conversational tone of voice, but it might conflict with your advertising tone of voice, for instance, right? So, and what happens if in one communication or one medium you're confronted with one tone of voice and in another medium confronted with a different tone of voice from the same brand? I'm not sure. So we don't know that. That might conflict or it might not conflict because in a different context you expect something else. That might also be the case. And one question could also be how to create a brand-generated platform where people really go to complain and they feel invited to complain over there and not on other platforms. And how to combine marketing, customer care and public relation efforts to and how to integrate all these things in the organizational structure. I'm from marketing communications and not from management and all these things, but I think if you do combine these things in the organizational structure, and then it's more in line with each other, right? And the tone of voice and how you respond and interact with your consumers is more in line, and then the advertising department is not thinking something else than the customer care department, for instance. But in the Netherlands we see that web care departments are completely somewhere else and not with the advertising department and not with the customer care department. So. And what are other appropriate strategies to respond to negative word of mouth? Maybe saying sorry is not such a good thing always. Maybe it's also a good thing to actually deny that there was something wrong. I don't know. So there are other ways, of course, than only reactive and proactive styles to respond to negative word of mouth. And we are not sure yet which style is best to respond to all these negative expressions. So. That was it for me.
Any questions, anybody? May I ask a question?
Yes, sure.
You go first. Hello. Whiteboards come from the audience that we want
I think being proactive or reactive depends on how corporate you are. I mean, for an organization. In your research, what do you think about in what extent the corporations are more respectful to this kind of negative word of mouth? For example, in Turkey, I think there are some organizations who cannot stand to this kind of negative criticisms. So, do you think in what place the freedom of customer finishes? I mean, in what extent they can criticize the companies? Is there a limit, or they can write?
Well, I actually think people go really far. Also, there's research on why people express negative word of mouth, right, on social media, and there are several motivations. And sometimes the reason is to get something done from the brand. They sometimes do it on purpose, really, just to get a free, to get a discount or to get a free night deal or whatever. So, they do it in different ways, but I think, and in general, the service companies are taking more effort to respond to negative word of mouth in the Netherlands. It's more service companies than other type of companies. Yeah, but consumers can take it really far. Yeah. Also, if for instance, police agents also are on Twitter to do whatever, to tweet on whatever. But they also are attacked by people because you fire me for a stupid thing. Please do your job, right? Do the real police job, and go find the thieves and whatever. And do not find me for speeding or something, or parking in the wrong place. But they are always responding to it. They do not leave it. Like so, they always try to sort of switch the dialogue into a normal tone of voice, and they always respond to it. Yeah, I'm really surprised with it.
The question I had is, have you come across any examples of where there is an online facility to provide feedback? In this case, negative word of mouth.
For consumers.
Yes, but have you come across any examples where the actual online service has provided negative feedback to the negative word of mouth? It's not intended to be facetious, but I have come across some examples where the person responding online will say, well, it's your fault, you should have been there earlier. Or,
Really?
yeah.
So that's one, that's not saying sorry, and maybe that's actually sometimes better. But we did not, all these things occur in reality, but from research we do not know what's more effective. So of course, people are just now trying things out, and companies are trying a lot of things. And but we do not know what's more effective. But I can think of examples that it's better to deny that there's something wrong with the brand than saying sorry, or here's your financial discount. Or yeah, because that means that you're admitting that you're wrong, right?
Yeah, but is it denying or is it not accepting? It's the same.
Yeah.
It's not the
So
same.
there's different ways of responding. And there's one colleague of mine in the Netherlands, and he studied whether apologizing or denying or whatever is more effective, but he never published his work. So I can refer to his website where he explains his study, but it's not published.
There is the example of Audi in the United States where they had some problem with the automatic clutch, the automatic cars. If you engage the clutch and the brake lever in a particular combination, the car would actually leap forward.
Yeah.
And they had a number of examples of cars leaping through the wall of their garage into the house. And Audi said, it's not our fault, it's your fault, you're driving the car incorrectly. But in actual fact, it was their fault. Never mind. Anyway, I've got to stop. Okay, one last question, one last one. Who wants to go, this lady or this lady?
Actually, I have a question. I just want to follow up.
Okay.
Later, maybe in the coffee break, we'll discuss that.
Okay.
Because I was going to mention something about attribution theory and crisis communication. Maybe this is what it is working.
Crisis
in that
communication.
Yeah. In crisis management, when we look at the attribution theory, like if you are attributed that it's your fault, then you go to the full apology side and vice versa. Maybe this thing there also.
Yeah, I think actually attribution theory is not where I went to, but it explains a lot of things, the process. And maybe one question from a student. Huh?
One question from the lady in the back.
That's nice.
Or the lady in the front. Sorry. This is the last one.
In conclusion, two-part. You told us human voice is important.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
In conclusion, two-part. You told us human voice is important. I'm wondering, can you expand it a bit more?
What human voice is?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I can also refer you to articles that actually write a lot about what human voice is. And I think the concept is rather, I'd say, ambiguous or vague because it mentions that there's many indicators of what a human voice is. And if there's many indicators, then it becomes difficult because then which indicator explains, right, the human voice? Is it because there's emotion used or exclamation marks or like hygiene used, right? Using the first name of the one who's complaining, or is it other things in the webcare that explains the human voice? So we now, I can send you the details about how we manipulated it and which indicators we adopted, but of course we do not know which indicator it exactly was. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. We now have our last paper in this session, which
interactivity through responsiveness.
First of all, I would like to say welcome to all of the contributors and to the audience. It's our pleasure to host you in İzmir University of Economics. And again, I would like to thank for all the valuable information that you're sharing and discussing with us today. I would like to pass to our own research, which we have conducted with my colleague, Ebru Uzunoğlu. And in this research, we have tried to analyze the responsiveness of the Turkish non-profit organizations, especially the environmentalist non-profit organizations' websites. And these are the things that we will cover in our presentation. And we can say that in today's communication world, the objectives of the communication have started to change. And in the conventional communication campaigns, we were mostly talking about the achieving the aims of informing, persuading, or reminding the brands to our target audience. But in today's world, with all the technological developments that we are discussing here, we are starting to think about the change in the communication objectives. And as Porcu Garcia and Professor Kitchen have stated in their articles, the communication objectives have started to change to informing, listening, and responding, especially to the stakeholders. And this new change brings interactivity to the organizations. And again, in order to be interactive, it's not enough only to communicate with these stakeholders. It's one of the main things for interactivity is, again, can be considered as responsiveness of the organizations. As one of our colleagues have mentioned in her previous presentation, responsiveness is one of the main tools. Either it's proactive or reactive. We can say that it can affect many of the communication activities. And as an outcome of the responsiveness, we can speak about building and maintaining these relationships between the organizations and the stakeholders. And we would like to share what we are understanding from the notion of responsiveness. We took the definition of Jacobs and Kolan, and they have done a research on the stakeholders, and they have tried to understand what do stakeholders think about responsiveness, what to really mean, what to really understand when they asked the notion of responsiveness. And there are three main issues. The first one is the need to feel being listened to. The second one is the experience of being understood. And the third one is the experience of some sort of satisfying response from the organization. So in our research, we took the responsiveness according to this notion. And in our research, we have conducted the research according to the non-profit organizations' websites, especially for the environmentalist ones, because we think that especially for the non-profit organizations, every contact point has a very specific importance, and their communication activities are quite important because they're trying to persuade their volunteers or their stakeholders in order to do something, in order to be activists, or in order to respond to some of the issues which are important for society. And we can say that website is one of the tools that they have in their hands, and they can use these websites for achieving interactivity and for listening to their stakeholders and responding to them. And we can say that websites can build a dialogical relationship between the stakeholders and the organizations, and this dialogical relationship is one of the important things, especially for the non-profit organizations. And we have done a previous research, especially about incorporating the dialogic principles of Taylor, Kent, and White. And we have taken some of the titles of them, and we have found out that Turkish environmentalist NPOs' websites are not fully meeting the dialogic features of Taylor, Kent, and White. The websites were mostly used in order to load information, and it was like an archive, especially for the users. So besides this, again, in our previous research, we found out that these NPOs also seem weak in providing direct links to the new media potentials. So they were, very few of them had the Facebook or social network account linked to their websites. And for this research, our aim was to measure the responsiveness of these NPOs. And our hypothesis was organizations that respond to requests via emails are more likely to be dialogic than those who do not. And we have reviewed 49 websites according to the dialogical principles, and also after that we have sent an email asking for more information about their activities in Izmir and how can we join to those activities in Izmir. And as a result, the ones which sent response to us were considered as responsive, and the other ones which didn't send any email were considered as non-responsive. And we waited for 1 week for the responses. And as a result, among 49 non-profit organizations' websites, we got 39% of response rate, and there was a significant difference between the responsive ones and non-responsive ones in terms of dialogic principles. And we found out that our hypothesis was accepted. So the ones which incorporated, which responded us were more dialogic than the ones which did not respond. And again, when we look at the dialogical principles, we found out that the difference comes from the use of information for media and the conservation of visitors, and from the dialogic loop. And again, among the environmental NPOs, those responded, the range of meeting the dialogic principles varies from 89% to 23%. And among the ones those did not respond, varies from 77% to 26%. And the NPO which met most of the dialogic principles were the one which responded in the first place. So they responded us immediately, and we were quite impressed for that. And again, out of the first NPOs incorporating dialogic principles, 3 responded to our emails within 3 days. And out of the 10 NPOs in terms of incorporating dialogic principles, only 2 responded to our email within 1 week. And as a result, we can say that relationship building is actually nourished by interactivity, and web pages are a tool in order to increase interactivity and dialogue between the stakeholders and organizations. And these websites are quite important, especially for the non-profit organizations, in order to increase their communication with their stakeholders. And but according to the research results, we can say that unfortunately they cannot utilize all the interactive properties of the websites very well. And again, in our research, we found out that providing an opportunity for interaction doesn't mean that that organization will be responsive. And or again, not providing any opportunity for interaction will result with the non-responsive conclusion. And we have, of course, some research suggestions for that, yes, for the further research. We think that we can also do a qualitative research, and we can also contact with the representatives of these NPOs and try to understand why were they not responsive. Also, we can also try to analyze the content of their responses. And we can also analyze their tone of voice, as you mentioned in your previous research, and try to make comparison between them, maybe. And also, we can try to find out if a genuine conversation can be built with these responses. And if it can end up with the relationship building. So those are the things that I would like to share, and we would like to thank you again. Thanks for listening to us.
Thank you very much. I don't have a question, but I have, when you showed us the slide with respect to your further research ideas, why that they are not responding, I have an assumption that maybe most of the NGOs, they are lacking professional staff and sources. Their interns are working for them, etc., etc. There could be one of the reasons. So maybe once you're done with your research, we'll find out whether we'll come up to that or not.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for it.
In our previous research, we put the same conclusion already.
Okay. Is there any question?
Any other questions? Just a quick question for me then. When the NPOs responded to your, if you like, emailed inquiry, how were you then able to ascertain from that that they did incorporate dialogic principles, apart from the fact that they had responded?
Before that, we had done the research about their dialogical principles, and we have analyzed all their websites according to those dialogical principles, and we have tried to understand if they are really dialogical or not. But after that, we thought only holding those dialogical principles would not be enough. And we should go further, and we should measure their responsiveness. And because of that, we created that query and tried to find out if they're really dialogic or not.
Can I tease this a bit further in respect of the dialogical principles? Once they had responded to you, did you respond to them?
Not yet. Yes.
Uh-oh.
We are not responsive. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, it's time for a coffee break, everybody, but thank you to our three presenters. Thank you.